So welcome. My name's James Atkins from Vantage, and also like to thank Russell and Ray from Strategic Business Development who are hosting this series of webinars. Today we're going to focus on an area that sometimes sounds like jargon, value propositions. So what I hope we'll do is we'll break it down to what is a value proposition and how can you get real value from it. We'll introduce three different models or frameworks on how to make it work better for you. I've used these with a number of different types of clients, and they've been quite useful, and hopefully you'll be able to find something in the 30 minutes therefore that is of value to you. There is a workbook that was sent out as a link in the email giving you all the log-on details, so please click on that and you can download the workbook. As I said, there's question and answers on the right, so feel free to put anything in there as we go along. The session is being recorded, so you'll be able to review it later or share it with any of your colleagues. A little about myself. I work with businesses and leaders, helping them refine their strategy so they can grow, whether that's in growth in profit, sales, marketing or people. My main focus is medium to large organisations, typically where sales and marketing is an important part of making that growth a reality. So, therefore, I spend quite a bit of time talking to people about value propositions, hence the context of today's webinar. Warren Buffett made this saying, price is what you pay, value is what you get. And I think it's a really good one, because to me, the higher the value you're able to deliver from a customer perspective, therefore the higher the potential price and hopefully return that you'll get. But being clear on what the value it is that you're able to provide is really important. And a lot of so-called value propositions that I see in the market quite often are short on value. And the question is, why is that? Why are they short on value? I believe it's because in many businesses, people start from what I describe as inside out. They're created from the inside of the organisation and go out from there. They're all about what the businesses think their customers want or what they want to sell to their customers rather than what customers actually need. They focus on what you want to sell rather than starting with customers' problems or needs that you are uniquely able to address. So what exactly is a really great value proposition? To me, it's ones that start from the outside in. That's where you're able to create real value. But what is it? Simply, I think a value proposition is the sum of what you deliver, the attributes of your offer, how you're perceived or seen in the market, your image, and the sort of relationship you're able to develop with your customers. So it's what you deliver, your attributes, how you're seen, your image, and the relationship that you believe is appropriate, the ones that cut through from you in terms of developing. And it all comes together in a coherent and consistent way. And really good value propositions are able to summarise it in a clear and concise manner. And in fact, are able to bring it down to a single statement. And it's that single statement, though, that is clear and concise, that comes from having great understanding and insight around your customers. I'm going to give you two quick examples. One from an organisation called Evernote. Now, I know a number of you probably use Evernote. I know I do. And it's a really great system where it enables you to capture any information, bookmarking or clipping or recipe or notes, accessing it in one spot and enabling you to find it really fast. And the sentence at the bottom of the page comes directly from their website. Evernote apps and products make modern life manageable by letting you easily collect and find everything that matters. And with the explosion of data and information that we have in the world due to the digital revolution, this is even more important. So they provide real clear value. It's a very clear value proposition as summarised by that statement, but certainly not in total. The second example that I'd share with you is for Boost juice bars, and we'll look at Boost from a couple of different angles during today. And the phrase at the bottom is my analysis of what their value proposition, if they had to put it in a sentence, having looked at a number of different things that they do in terms of their marketing and positioning. And to me, their value proposition is all about, if you were to summarise it, great tasting, healthy juices and snacks made and served by people who love life. A really clear value proposition. So there's two that I think are simple and clear and concise, to use the phrase I used earlier. But how do they arrive to that simplicity? Because it's not something you can sit down one day and necessarily write in a sentence unless you're really talented. And I think there's three things. How do you arrive at that simplicity? The first thing is to be really clear on what your total offer is. What is the offer that you're providing? Yes, a statement, but what's behind the scenes that matters? And I'll show you a value proposition wheel that I use that you can do to help you make sure you've got the total offer clear. The second is around having a sustainable competitive advantage. And because that is the foundation of your offer. That is the foundation of your value proposition. And similarly, I'll show you a quick exercise you can do to help you around that. And thirdly, to have a value proposition that's clear, concise and cuts through, you must be starting from the outside in, from the customer's needs and problems, their perspective, their needs. And I'll talk about a simple framework. So these three hows, total offer, competitive advantage, and starting with the customer needs and problems, the three different models and frameworks that we'll tackle today. So talking about the first one, the total offer, what I call a value proposition wheel. And at the centre of that wheel is your brand essence. What is your DNA? What is the essence, the brand, and the image and the position you want to have in the market? And this is something that doesn't necessarily come immediately, but something is either from your heritage or from where you want to take your business or your brand in the future. Surrounding that is then four factors. Firstly, and most importantly, around that competitive advantage that I talked about earlier. How are you going to win? And quite often, and in really good value propositions, the competitive advantage, the brand essence will be linked together. And I'll show you how that's worked for Boost Juice in a minute. Then the features, the attributes, what you offer, but importantly, translated into what are those benefits to your customer. And then the proof points. How do you actually demonstrate the value? How do you prove it rather than just say it? And the third layer is the image, how you want to be seen, and the values, how you'll work and what you hold true, the inner core of your brand and your business. And actually being really clear around these aspects enables you to come up with clear and concise statements around your brand and a really clear view on the value you provide. So let's nick back to Boost Juice, a great example of a brand that I think has got their value proposition and their value proposition wheel really clear. And I haven't got this from Boost, I've just done that by analysing the things they say and the things they do and the experience that you have with them. To me, their brand essence, and this is one that when you look at Janine Ellis, the founder of Boost, you can sort of understand, is around loving life, very much around the love of life. Then their competitive advantage is about the Boost experience. And the Boost experience is really interesting when you look at their features, benefits and their proof points. The features are around fresh ingredients and made in store, but the benefits are around feeling great, having fun and being healthy. And those benefits are the core of the Boost experience. And interestingly, the proof points are around things like the team. And what they've got going for them is a really great virtuous circle where their team, the people that work in their store, is actually the essence of the people that they target. Young and heart, energetic, people that want to feel great, have fun and be healthy. And that virtuous circle of the team that are part of their staff and the people that they target as core to their audience is at the core of the Boost experience, around feeling great, having fun and being healthy. And that's what you see when you go in store and see their products. And their image is around being cool, energetic and fresh with great internal values of having fun, a can-do attitude and honesty. So it's a really consistent value proposition wheel. And I haven't put all the elements in there, I've just picked some that I think in particular underlie their love of life and that boost experience, which at the end of the day gets them to great tasting healthy juices and snacks made and served by people who love life. So if I'd ask you now to open up the workbook that you've got and look at a quick exercise. I'll just give you a few minutes to jot down some thoughts. Obviously, going through the value proposition wheel is something that will take some time, and you need some specific exercises to look at. But think about your own value proposition wheel if you were to assess it today. What elements are missing or lacking clarity to you? Do they all work together to create a compelling value proposition? And how, if you were to summarise it in one sentence, do you think you'd be able to do it? So I'll just give you a short time, 30 to 40 seconds, just to think through those three questions. If you've got any questions specifically, please put them up in the chat box on the right, and I can address those. Okay, we'll stop there, and hopefully you've been able to identify some of the elements that are missing or lacking clarity for you, and that's something that you can really do when you get back with some of your colleagues. These are the best really looked at in a group initially. Quite often when I do this exercise with clients, the two key gaps or challenges, as per the first point there, what's missing or lacking clarity, is quite often around the competitive advantage, and the other is about real benefits and real proof points. And so I want to spend a little bit of time now around those two aspects, the competitive advantage and determining real benefits and proof points. Jack Welch, the ex-GE CEO, said, if you don't have a competitive advantage, don't compete. And I think a lot of businesses, unfortunately, have got wobbly competitive advantages, ones that aren't really all that succinct or clear. And some of the things to think about when determining your competitive advantage is it sustainable? And I think with the amount of change we have and the amount of competition, sustainable competitive advantage is difficult. And you do need to be continuing to update it and be really clear on it. It needs to be hard to copy, obviously unique in comparison and superior to competition, and applicable across the multiple situations in your business. And if you think about some great examples of competitive advantage, four that come to mind to me are Google, who are just fantastic around investing in technology infrastructure, so they're able to innovate continually around data and providing answers. McKinsey in the B2B space, absolutely cut through in terms of thought leadership, and they use that as their competitive advantage as a supplier to high-end businesses. IKEA, for instance, great around low cost and delivering a low-cost experience and making a virtue of it, in fact. H&R Block, tax accountants who have really deep knowledge of individuals in tax affairs and the tax code, and increasingly small businesses. And they know how to service it really well. They're businesses that I think have great sound competitive advantages and are able to develop it. There's a way to determine competitive advantage, a simple model, and we won't go through it in huge detail tonight, but it's around identifying what is your competitive advantage. And there's a couple of steps that you can do, and this is an example. If someone wants this template explained in a bit more detail, please give me a call. But the first factor is to be understanding around the key success factors in your category against your competitors, and you determine what are the key success factors in terms of purchasing. You see in column A, they're listed, and some examples there, 1 to 10 for an example. Then you rate those values to the customer, 0 being low, 10 being high. And what's important here is to get some separation. Sometimes we do this exercise with clients and everyone thinks it's their values are 8, 9, and 10, but it's about creating some separation. And quite often a way to make this work is to think about a particular product and a particular customer segment, so start quite refined. So rate them 0 to 10. Then ignore everything below 8 and rate your ability, your current ability to beat your competitor. And that doesn't mean you can't improve your current ability, but what's your current ability? And then for those same factors, rate the internal impact, that is the level of enthusiasm that you would create if that was your competitive advantage, is that was what you looked at from a competitive advantage perspective. And then add together the value to customer and the internal impact, and you'll see which are the higher ranking or higher rating elements. And test it by, if you were to win, if that was your competitive advantage, how would you do that? Would that be really a compelling competitive advantage for you? And then think about how would you improve your ability to beat your competitor? What would be the strategies you provide? So in this example, response time was the one that was seen as the winning competitive advantage. How would you take the response time current ability to beat competitor, in this instance a 7, how would you take it to an 8, a 9 or a 10? And so this is a way that you can think about competitive advantage, do it by segment, do it by product, do it by overall brand if that's appropriate. But it's a really neat way of thinking about how you would start to do it. And that's a great example of doing it. So competitive advantage, quite often the thing that I find people have challenges with in terms of looking at their value proposition, because it is the firm foundation, not only of value propositions, but all over strategy. And of course, it's something you need to keep an eye on, because the pace of change is so significant that today's competitive advantage could be overtaken by nimble competitors. So being sustainable and innovating is key. The second issue, key gap or challenge I see is around, as I said, providing real benefits and proof points. And no doubt you've heard of the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule, whereby you see that 80% of the value quite often can come from 20% of the effort. 80% of your highest sales can come from 20% of your customers. So this principle, the Pareto principle, is really useful in thinking about the real products and benefits, the real proof points in your offer and your value proposition. And it works like this. And this is the third model I wanted to introduce you to tonight. Firstly is around your core product. The core product, the thing that you offer, the core features, are quite often 80% of your costs, but may only provide as low as 20% of the impact to the customers, 20% of the value to the cost to the customer. It's the products around, the things that surround your customer, that provide 80% of the impact for a disproportionately lower sense of cost, 20% of the costs. So whilst the core of your product, the core feature, the service, is a big absorption of costs, it may provide a significantly lower amount of impact to the customers versus the things that surround your product, the services, how you position it, the added value can actually have a significantly lower portion of cost but a proportionately higher degree of impact. And this is an interesting way to think about your product and service, either as an overall business or at a service level. And the question is, what are you spending your time focusing on? The products around or the core product? And how do you determine what is in that product surround? And this is where it comes around thinking from the outside in, thinking about it from customers' needs and problems, which is the real core. Now I'm going to use an example here of a business that I've similarly analysed to Boost, which is Jetts 24/7 gyms. And this is a business that reinvented a pretty tired category, a category where many gyms, traditional gyms, were going out of business, to being one of the fast-growing Fast 100 BRW, having significant growth in revenues. the end of the day, if you think about it, they are just a gym at the core product, the core in terms of the land, the facilities, the people, the equipment. That's core. So what is it that's different is, in fact, they've innovated around the products around. And they've innovated around the products around by thinking about real customer needs and problems. So if I was to analyse that category before jets came around, I think around, well, there's a real perception around old equipment, that traditional gyms are really crowded, they're expensive, you can't use them when you travel because you're tied into a single membership. Similarly, they're not convenient. Full of muscle-bound gorillas, people flexing in front of the mirrors. You're tied in for years from big contracts and not open when you want, not convenient. There's some of the example customer needs and problems. Then if they were to think about it from there, think about how they've innovated around their products around. Well, they've got state-of-the-art equipment. It's all pretty new. They don't have classes because they realised that classes were the things that crowded gyms as people came in and out in big en masse. The expense was around monthly and annual fees, so they brought them down to weekly. They enabled people to access their gyms wherever they worked, access any of their network. Instead of focusing on muscle-bound gorillas, they focus on having family memberships. They don't have contracts, it's weekly fees, and they're open 24/7. So they've really understood what those customer problems are, and then they've determined the products around. And the products around, as you can see, significantly lower cost, but much bigger impact, a key part of their value proposition. So that's the third model I wanted to talk about. So if you could go back to your workbook for just a minute or so and think about the products around in this sense. So what are your customers' real problems and needs? How would you refine your offer in the products around to meet those needs and solve the problems? And how could you then deliver them across your customer touchpoints? Because that's the other thing that I think is of real value, across the customer touchpoints. So I'll just give you a few seconds just to jot down some of your thoughts initially. Great. Well, we'll leave it there. One question's come through around customer touch points and what the purpose there is. One of the things to do is actually to map out your different customer touch points to understand where the interactions are, where the key moments of truth in the interaction. And that's a great way to think about, are you delivering your value? Are you delivering the products around, meeting customer needs and problems at each of the touch points? So I suggest that's sort of another exercise you can do. Think about the key customer touch points and then use that as a way to innovate and to think about delivering value via the customer surround. Thanks for that question. Wrapping up, it's really important in terms of getting value out of your value proposition to focus on the total offer. Make sure that, yes, you want to get to a single statement, but think about that value proposition wheel. Are you clear on all the elements? Think about sustainable competitive advantage. Do you have a competitive advantage either at a product or over brand level? If anyone's interested in doing some more work on that model, please feel free to email me. And meeting customer needs and problems, thinking from the outside in, thinking about that product surround as a key way to add value. So I hope you're clear on the value you can get from value proposition and some of the tools and techniques you can use to do that. please feel free to use the models that we've looked at today, particularly the value proposition wheel and the products around. I find those really effective. The workbook, you can work with some of your colleagues. This webinar is being recorded and you'll be sent a link. You've obviously already got the workbook, and the presentation that's come up today will also be sent to you. If you'd like more information, feel free to subscribe to the newsletter. And if you want to run a workshop around one of these models with some of your colleagues, please feel free to contact me, and we can do that either virtually via webinar or face-to-face, depending on where you are. Please feel free to contact me on that. This is a part of a series of workshops from Strategic Business Development, so thanks to Ross and Ray, and these happen every few weeks, so I encourage you to log on to any of the other ones. Any other questions before we log off and finish? No? So, well, thanks very much, and thank you for your time, and have a good evening.